Welcome to Beyond the Huddle, a Central Arkansas FCA podcast where faith meets competition. Join host Josh Adair and Zac Rose as they dive into real stories from athletes, coaches, and leaders making an eternal impact through sports. Each episode brings powerful conversations on faith, leadership, and living boldly for Christ in every field of play and walk of life. This is Beyond the Huddle.
Welcome to Beyond the Huddle, the Central Arkansas FCA podcast where faith meets competition. We're your hosts, Zac Rose and Josh Adair, and we are just ecstatic. I always say the word excited, so I'm going to say a different word today, ecstatic, to have two really awesome guests here with us today. Man, I'm looking forward to this episode, and I know Josh is too. So we're going to go ahead and introduce them a little bit and then get into asking some questions here. But we have Mr. Rick Maupin. Is that how you say your last name?
That is
Maupin?
exactly how you
Rick
say it.
Maupin.
That's how I say it.
He is wise beyond his years and just a really great resource for us here at FCA. He's been serving for have you been serving since 2020? Yeah. He's been faithfully serving in missions work though for 25 years. So he's got a lot of perspective and wisdom to share. And then we also have a 5-star athlete going to the University of Alabama to play football. I'm just kidding. But he's a stud. I don't know him too well yet, but super excited to get to hear a little bit about him and his faith journey. But Mr. Nathaniel Thomas, Nate, as they call him, Nate the Great. So that is your last name, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
He's a junior.
And he's a junior. Okay, so he's going into senior year.
No. He's a Nathan Thomas.
Oh, junior.
Yeah,
okay.
Thomas.
I got you. Yes. Cool. So,
Props to his dad.
No, he graduates in 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right. Well, you want to get us rolling here, Josh?
Yeah. So super excited. Thank y'all for coming today. We'd like to highlight staff, FCA staff, and local athletes and how they are making an impact. I think today's story highlights exactly how a local staff person impacts a local school campus and a locker room and a team and helps shape the culture and points people to Jesus. Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up blessed with the opportunity working with us Fellowship Christian Athletes?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share. It's a God story lived out in my life. I had no clue that God would call me to FCA. Matter of fact, I've been a missionary for 25 years. I spent the first 20 with Family Life, local ministry, and they decided to move their locality to Orlando, Florida. My wife and I, married now 41 years, have 6 children, and at the time had 11 grandchildren. And I didn't think that God was calling us to move out of the area since all of our kids and grandkids were in this area. So we didn't know what was next. Looked like I was headed to a different ministry, excellent ministry out of Texas. And then God changed directions, and I ended up having lunch with a former colleague at Family Life who had 7 months earlier joined FCA. And so as we were having lunch, just catching up, he kind of stopped the lunch in middle of this, hearing my story. He said, wait a minute, this is a Holy Spirit moment. We need to pray about this because I think there's a good chance God might be setting you up to serve with FCA. To which I said, well, that's great, but I'm not sure that's really the case. And I didn't know, though. So after driving home and thinking about what I had an appointment pursuing a different ministry on that Monday, this was a Friday, we had lunch. So on that Monday, I had a different appointment toward a different ministry. And I left that appointment, which was very successful. And I couldn't help but feel this impression that I needed to follow up my friend Lance. And so I had a 10-minute drive. And for about 8 of those 10 minutes, I was wrestling with God. Like, that meeting I just had went really well. Why would I call? What? And then I called because after 8 minutes of wrestling, I decided to surrender. Called Lance, and he said, well, why don't we set up a meeting at FCA? And so the next day I had a meeting with FCA. And I could not ignore the good fit that was expressed with the director and 2 other staff, including my friend Lance. Maybe God was calling me to FCA. So I came home. I shared that idea with my wife, and I shared it with my son, who was a defensive coordinator at a high school here at the time. And they both said, well, I think FCA is a great fit. I mean, my son said, we've been in sports all our lives. Sports is who we are and what we're about. I can't think of a better fit. So I followed up and talked to the director and began the process. And September 30th of 2020, I became a staff member with FCA.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's cool to see how sometimes the Lord does stir those things in our heart of maybe it wasn't exactly what we thought was the best fit at first, or we didn't fully see, like, you know what, FCA is the shining, flashing sign in front of me that I know this is what the Lord wants me to do. Sometimes we just wrestle with the Lord. That reminds me of the story of Jacob, just wrestling with the angel. Like, personally, I wouldn't want to do that, but I'm sure after a while it gets exhausting. It's like, all right, Lord, you thought that was funny.
No, I had a mental image of someone who thought he was really brave and big enough to wrestle an angel for a minute. So I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's what Rick was doing.
Well, I can tell you he
tapped out after 8 minutes.
Yeah.
The months before that, I did a lot of wrestling with God about what he was doing, because I was really certain I was going to a different ministry. And I spent 8 good days, pretty much 9 to 5, wrestling. What are you doing? Because I'd spent 20 years with Family Life, and I loved what I did. And I truly enjoyed the emphasis on the gospel and the emphasis on making disciples. I was going to enter a ministry that does the same thing, and it made sense to me, and things were progressing, and then suddenly it wasn't to be. And so I was truly lost in where are you in this moment? And God had provided already for this moment of wrestling. And then he delivered on his promise that he'll never leave me or forsake me, and brought me to FCA so that I could see what he was setting me up for all along. And I can tell you, as much as I love those 20 years with Family Life, I consider it a bunch of pinch me moments to do what I get to do with FCA. It is undeserved favor and all joy. It's crazy. My friends mock me because they'll say this to each other in a deer blind. Who gets to do this? But that's what I say all the time. Who gets to do what I get to do? To serve with Nate and to serve with you guys, it's just unbelievable that God has positioned me so that I can be a part of what only he can do, and that's change lives. And he can do it and get even more glory doing it through a crackpot like me, carrying around his living water. And that it would spill over to someone like Nate. I mean, to me, again, it's all joy that Nate and I get to do life together, and that I would know him at all, because he's just an excellent young man that God is shaping into what he intends to do in and through Nate. And I get to be a small part of it, a very small part of it. Yeah. But I get to do it. So it's joy.
Yeah. That's cool to see how the Lord intertwines those stories too of you're faithfully serving. You don't know where that may lead you. And it leads to a guy like Nate, who's, I don't know your story, but we're about to dive into that here a little bit. But Nate, tell us a little bit about you, what sports you played, what high school you go to, and what you want to do with your life, maybe.
Good. Well, I'm Nate Thomas. I'm a senior at Maupin High School. Get ready to graduate in 2 days, actually, approximately 2 days now.
Let's go.
I play football. I play basketball. I used to run track. I stopped my 11th grade year. I do quite a bit of CrossFit, and I actually played baseball, which was not for me, but it was wonderful to be a part of that team.
This is Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. I enjoyed every moment of it. I used to actually pray before the baseball games. That's pretty much why Coach Watson wanted me on the team. So I enjoyed that aspect of it and being around another brotherhood.
That's awesome. How do you feel like over your time in high school you grew spiritually with FCA?
Spiritually with FCA, I started off as a little seed that I can put it in this terms. I started off as a little seed that had zero growth. I wasn't even planted yet, and I feel like Mr. Maupin kind of helped plant me, adding deeper and allowing me to grow deeper into my faith, because I feel like beginning before FCA, I wasn't really found, and I didn't really know where my faith was or where I standed with my faith. But I feel like as more as I got involved in FCA, I feel like my faith constantly grown. I feel like my seed is really being planted, and now, me personally, I feel like I've grown into a little bit of a root. I'm still not a tree yet, but I'm growing into some roots and just sprouting out through the ground.
So, Nate, before FCA, before an encounter with Rick, what was your relationship with Jesus like?
My relationship with Jesus was on and off. It wasn't consistent, and I feel like my heart wasn't full, or my mind and body wasn't full with him yet. So that was my biggest issue, with staying consistent. I mean, with praying, being in the Word, being in my faith, I wasn't consistent with it, and that was my biggest issue. Yeah. But I had somebody that could encourage me and help me grow in that, and that's pretty much all I needed.
So back up a little bit longer. Who introduced you to Jesus, and how did you realize that you needed Jesus in your life?
My mom and my dad, we grew up in church consistently, probably since I can remember. We were in there every Sunday, every Wednesday, and even Fridays, generally speaking. And that was one of my huge influences. But I feel like as I got older and I got busier, I started losing track of that. I wasn't staying consistent, and I wouldn't show up to church every Sunday. And if I did, I wouldn't stay the full service. And once again, I found somebody that could get me back on track and keep me consistent in my faith.
Yeah, that's great. You know, Rick, you were talking about 25 years before and leading to where you are now, and the opportunity that you just get to spend a little bit of time with Nate now, even though it's probably a lot more than you give yourself credit for. Opportunities to, using the analogy that Nate used, to water the seed that's already planted. You didn't plant the seed, but you just come along to water it, to produce it, to nurture it, to fertilize it, to allow his faith to grow. I was told a long time ago, I was a student pastor for 15 years before coming on staff with FCA, Nate. And one of the first churches I served in, the guy looked at me and he says, Josh, you know, God is in the business of engineering your circumstances to get you exactly where you need to be so that you can depend on him the most and take yourself out of the equation. We hear a lot of times that God will never give you more than you can handle, and that's a lie. And that makes no sense. Why in the world would God not give you more than you can handle? Because if he gives you more than you can't, no more than you can't handle, then what's the purpose of God? Why do we need a savior if I can do it all on my own? I think he a lot of times puts so much pressure, or we take on so much pressure to do stuff for him, or he puts us in situations to where it's overwhelming that the only thing we can do is cry out to him. Amen. And give him the opportunity and the platform to move in and through us, and more is ever accomplished that way. Amen. So how long Rick, how long have you, so you came on staff in 2020, excuse me, couple of months, because I remember that journey. I was coming on similar time frame and having those discussions. From then, how long did it take you to get to Maumelle to start building a relationship with the football team and Nate?
Oh, there's a hilarious story about how I ended up at Maumelle. I had several schools, not Maumelle, and then 3 years ago, January, so I'd been on staff for a couple of years, year and a half or so, and our director, Mark Miller, said they really want us out at Maumelle. I'd visited there a year earlier. I was working with a school, Maumelle charter, but I didn't have anything steady over there, and it wasn't really my territory, if you will. So I knew the AD, who was also the head football coach at the time, and so he had reached out to us and said, "Yeah, we really want FCA on campus." So my director said, "You're the guy." So I said, "That's great." And my son, a week later, who was a defensive coordinator at Robinson High School, where I had a Huddle and an influence on campus, he said, "I'm applying for the head coach job at Maumelle." At which point I went back to my director and I said, "Mark, I cannot be your guy at Maumelle because, and this has to stay in strict confidence, my son is applying for the head coaching job, and I'm not going to be that dad and show up and, not suggest that he would know that so I wasn't going to do that. And then I had an immediate supervisor who happened to be my friend Lance, who got me on board with FCA. And I couldn't tell Lance because in between telling Mark and coming home and talking to my son, he said, now make sure this doesn't get out. I said, okay, well, my director knows, but I won't tell anyone else. So then when I told Lance, hey, I can't go out to Maumelle and I can't tell you why, it kind of was an issue. And he said, I don't get it. Well, look, I can't tell you why, but you could talk to Mark. And so that became like a power struggle. Like it looked bad for me in the way it was breaking down. Anyway, Mark went to be a presence on the campus for a day in my absence. And 2 weeks after that, so it took about a month for the whole process of hiring my son. My son got the head coach job at Maumelle, and I can faithfully say I had nothing to do with it. Yeah. And I went out, and that led to a lot of opportunities at Maumelle. My son being the head coach, we established a football huddle right away. But then we also, through him, I got to know the volleyball coach, did a huddle with them. They had known the baseball coach, did a huddle with them. And so it just, it's been a great relationship.
So that started in what year?
3 years ago. So
2022. So you would have been a sophomore?
Yes, sir. But I wasn't in Maumelle at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't make till his junior year.
My junior year.
All right. So either one of y'all can answer this. How did y'all, how'd your paths cross? How did you understand that relationship dynamic and to get it to where it is today?
I'll let you talk about the relationship dynamic. We crossed paths because he was on the football team, and I held a football huddle once a week. And Nate, I could see, he was filled with the Spirit. There's just when you get to know Nate, you get to know there's a joy that just surrounds him. And he embraces. It's not like just a joy walking next to him. He embraces this joy that surrounds him. He's a fun person to be with, but he's also he's a convicted person. He's a determined person. He's a passionate person. And I saw leadership skills. So I invited him to take leadership. And the rest, they say, is history.
I've kind of taken that role on as Mr. Maupin passed that on to me. Was kind of taking, like I said, a leadership role. The days that he couldn't make the huddle, I would take over the huddle and I would ask guys, hey, do you want to come up and speak? And most guys would accept that role as if he was just there asking them once again. And on the days that maybe we didn't want to have a huddle or just a random day of the week that maybe some other guys had some stuff on their mind that they need to get off or wanted to dive deeper into the word or just their faith or their travel through faith, we would simply do that outside of his huddle, which he would have every Friday or Mondays. We would have that separately just because I think everybody needs it. And, of course, he instilled it in me that not everybody has access to what I have access to. So
that's good.
So I became an equipper. So I'd provide Bibles, so I'd provide encouragement, I'd provide direction, whatever was needed. But I was definitely allowing God to flourish in and through Nate. It was way better than I could ever imagine because I believe it's the shared experience that people have. I know it's true in my own life. It's the shared experience. When you share, I ask two questions in my huddles, and I tell them there's no wrong answer to either of these two questions. What did you hear, and what do you think? So when I ask you, what did you hear, or what did you think, it's because I want to really hear what you heard. But my dynamic beyond that is people will hear things differently. And sometimes when a peer tells them what they heard, it's like, oh, I didn't even catch that. But they'll hear it even more clearly than someone from up front like me. So I try to encourage that. And I wanted Nate to accept the role of leader. I want all of the leaders that God has chosen. I don't know who they are, but I want them all to understand if God's calling you to lead, I'll give you an opportunity where you can demonstrate that.
So, were you about to say something?
Go
for it. No, go for it.
Well, prior to this, I came from a different program, which was not Maumelle. I came from Biloxi Academy, which was my longtime home for middle school through high school pretty much, and I moved my junior year coming to Maumelle. And I feel like FCA helped me find a family, a faithful family, and a home. I found people that had the same beliefs as me and shared the same characteristics as me. And I feel like that's where Mr. Maupin played a huge role in with me and building me to who I am today.
That's awesome.
So we talk a lot about kind of building towards something and where you are today. And it's awesome to hear the testimony of all that the Lord's done through the Maumelle football team and just showing up and being present and seeing what happens, building relationships in your life, Nate. Where did that switch get flipped of, man, I got to start taking my faith a little bit more seriously? Like, was there a moment? Was there like an injury? Was there something that happened that was kind of like, man, you know what? I gotta just go all in for the Lord here.
I actually had an injury, believe it or not. The first couple of months I was practicing here at Maumelle going into my senior year, I had pretty much ruptured my hamstring. And as a running back, that is a awful injury to have. You can't run. I could barely walk. I was in pain, but I kept trying to keep going. And eventually I felt God kind of telling me, hey, you need to take a step back. And at that point I realized, hey, maybe it's time to rest and take a break. And once I realized that, going towards the end of the season, I think I missed about 6 to 7 games. And I finally came back the last probably 4 or 5 games. And I came back as stronger than ever. And I felt like that was God's way of telling me, hey, you just got to wait your time and be patient.
I think that's important. It's funny. I was just reading through Exodus and how after the Israelites get freed from Pharaoh's grasp and they're out in the wilderness, they're given the manna from heaven, the quail from heaven. And the Lord asked them to observe the Sabbath. And it's so funny because they're all trying to collect as much food as they can, but they're also like, well, we got to be able to eat tomorrow. And there's clear instruction. Prepare what you need for tomorrow because tomorrow you're going to rest. I think that's important. What you're saying, too, is we were designed to work and work well, yes, but to rest. Because when we slow down and give the Lord an opportunity to stir something in us, we come out stronger, like you just said. I think that's so important for any athlete, for any coach listening. This goes for both coaches and athletes. This goes for FCA staff.
And
this
parents.
goes for any human under God's control, which is everyone. That's like when they ask you to stand.
That's good.
Everyone's standing right now. But at some point in your life, every week is a good time. Whenever you observe the Sabbath, take some time to reflect and rest because the Lord's probably trying to show you something. I'm sure you've seen that in your own life. Like, what do you feel like he was showing you in that season where you're dealing with this injury and you're like, man, what's going on right now? What was he revealing to you in that time?
I think he was revealing me, like I said, to be patient and wait my turn, wait my time. Because I used to always think, hey, I'm a well-oiled machine. Before I came to Maumelle, I used to get the ball every play. It was to Nate every play. And once I got to Maumelle, I had to realize, hey, you're behind a bunch of great guys. You're going to be, and it's going to be a different atmosphere. And I had to realize that. And I feel like that was a way of God telling me, just be patient, wait your time, and keep my faith.
Yeah, that's good.
That's awesome. I want to go back to this whole huddle discussion. For those of you who are joining us that don't know, in FCA we say a huddle. Yes, most sports teams, they huddle, they take a timeout, they gather together, and it's basically the same thing we do here. We provide an opportunity for a Bible study or character development or a word thought or just a time to refocus and reshift focus on Jesus and our relationship with him and how that impacts the way that we play. So and the way that we lead and the opportunities that we have to take empowerment and run with it with all that we have. So, Rick, talk to us a little bit about the huddle structure at Maumelle High School. I know Nate's here, representative of the football team and all that. So what does that huddle structure look like?
Well, I get about 15 minutes, and I honestly don't really want more than 15 minutes, and 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes longer than necessary, because people's attention span is about 10 minutes. So what I try to do is I try to bring a word, but I'd much rather the students would bring a word. Mm-hmm. And so from the very beginning, I challenge them to get into the Bible. And I give them the reason why I want them in the Bible, because I want the Bible to come out of them. And we're in a garbage in, garbage out society. What you put in will come out, and it'll especially come out under stress. And so what I want to come out under stress is what God says about the situation, the circumstance, whatever it is. And so the more I can get them into the word, the more likely it is that the word can come out of them. And again, especially when they're under duress. So I ask the students to consider, but I don't demand anything of them, bringing a verse that means something to them, tell why it means something to them, and then tell how they apply that meaning to their life. If a student has that, what I get to do is expand on it. So that's the best form of my huddles, is when the students will lead. And we talk about 4 pillars: leadership, integrity, character, and teamwork. And I want them to embody that. And the way they embody that is coming up front and sharing next to me what God has shown them through his word. And then sharing with their peers how they can apply and how they apply it. Not telling them how their peers should apply it, but tell how they personally apply what God has given them from the word.
Can you run that back one more time? What's those things that you tell them to share?
So a verse that means something to you, a word from Scripture that means something to you, tell why it means something to you, and then tell how you apply that meaning to your life. And if you embody those 3 things, people, they're not just entertained, they're taught. They're taught one person's perspective and one person's application. It doesn't mean it's going to be their perspective or their application, but it is one they wouldn't otherwise know if they didn't share it. So I like that opportunity. And then I expand on it, and I'm the one who says how they might apply it, same or different than how their teammate applies it. And then that gets their wheels turning, if you will. And so then I might ask, what did you hear when Nate said, what did you hear? When Nate said, what did you think? What do you think of this word? I love the word. There's a word I've used in many huddles, righteousness. And it's because it's throughout Scripture. And I love asking, what is righteousness? And I define righteousness as being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing for the right reason. What God says about it is none of us are righteous. No, not one. But there is one who is righteous. He's not us, but he's the reason we can have a right relationship with God because of his righteousness and God seeing us through that lens, the lens of Jesus Christ. And so I had a really fun time at a different school just a couple of weeks ago because I talked about righteousness a lot, and I don't always define it the way I just did. But I did define it about 3 months ago, and I'm at the school, and I brought it up again because there's a verse in Psalm. It's Psalm 21:21. And it says, those who pursue righteousness and kindness will find life, righteousness, and honor. And we were talking at the time about kindness and how it's an outward expression of all of the things that we want to be: leadership, integrity, character, and teamwork. When you're other-centered through kindness, you get to do that. And it's a form of righteousness. And God's word says this about righteousness and pursuing it. There's a benefit to it. It's right there. Psalm 21:21. So when I said this to this other school and a group of about probably about 22 students who were working out, I had this huddle. It's an all-sport huddle. And I'll just say it is at Episcopal. And I said, who remembers the definition of righteousness I gave a few months ago? And by God's grace, there was one student. His name is James. He said, I remember it was being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing for the right reason. And I am so honored that any of you would remember. Yeah. Nobody else, they didn't even remember the verse I talked about last week, but he remembered something from 3 months ago. And I just think those are the things that make what I get to do undeserved favor. And why I say, who gets to do this? That's the context of my huddle. I'm blessed that God would allow me, give me the honor to be a part of it. But I'm truly pursuing his righteousness. And I want them to pursue his righteousness. I think God just is all about that.
You got me fired up right now. I'm not going to lie. I'm sitting here fired up. No wonder you're here right now, because that would have me fired up. But that's so good. I think a lot of times as FCA staff, we can get so into what am I saying? How am I saying it? When really we just break down the truth, we share the truth, and we let it simmer. and we let the students engage.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Like, Nate's sitting here. Nate's a bright young man. He's got a great future ahead of him. I don't even really know Nate that well, but I can tell by the way he talks and by the way he's sitting here engaging in this conversation that that's something that has been planted in him and is growing. And I think that's what we look for in a lot of our athletes is, man, you don't have to know all the answers right now. We as FCA staff don't know all the answers, but can you cling on to some truth that's going to help you engage and go a little bit further in your faith journey? That's so good.
It's funny you said that because I tell students and coaches all the time, I'm an old guy who knows lots of stuff, but I can tell you I don't know what I don't know. And I say, you guys are a bunch of young guys who know lots of stuff, but I submit to you, you don't know what you don't know. And if you walk through life with really two attributes, gratitude and teachability, watch God do amazing things in you and through you.
That's good.
You know, I remember seeing Nate last year for the first time I ever meeting him was at a FCA camp on the competition field. Nate, I don't know if you know this, but you had a following, and it was
Some would say.
The following were the coaches who were on the competition field. FCA camp, it's mostly athletes, but a lot of coaches come to spend time and get away and spend time with other coaches and have Bible study and grow together and get closer in the Word, and to see the athletes that they pour into come alive in Jesus and grow in their relationship. I remember sitting around a couple of coaches talking. They're like, man, who is that guy from Maupin? I'm like, who are you talking about? They're like, he looked at me square in the eyes. He was very respectful. He asked me, how are you? Like, just all the things that coaches want to see in athletes that they don't always get. But Nate set the tone. He's like, and I heard them telling other people of their own teammate, other players on their own team, like, hey, you need to go spend some time with the guy from Maupin because he's different. He's a head above the rest. He's respectful. He's kind. He's asking how he can pray for other people, how he can lift you up. How's your relationship with Jesus? Like, he's has a lot of the it factor that a lot of coaches want to be able to coach an athlete of your caliber, of the way that you. So my question, Nate, is how did you get there? There's a lot of athletes who claim to fame that they're very athletic and very skilled, but you're more than that. You're a man who, not even a young man. You're a man who has high respect and high character and a high regard for other people. Some would even say more so than you do for yourself. How'd you get here?
How did I get here?
Or how did you arrive to that thought or that process of that being the man that you are today?
My thought process is always treat people better than you want to be treated. And that's my biggest thing, because I feel like Jesus Christ treated us a lot better than we've treated him. I mean, his blood is on our hands. He died for our sins. And we constantly, I sin quite often, but I feel like the only way for me to live out through him is to treat people just as he would want them to be treated. So even if somebody's not treating me with respect, I feel, hey, let's treat them with 100% respect. Maybe it'll make their day a little bit better. If you simply ask somebody how's their day going, if they're not having a bad day, maybe they want to talk about it. Maybe they want you to pray for them. And that's where my thought process goes as soon as I see somebody. If their head's down or their head's dropped, or they're not just having a great day, no smile on your face, hey, let's turn that frown upside down, because I'm always smiling. I'm always happy, and people kind of think I might have issues sometimes because I'm always smiling. But even when it's on dark days, even on dark days when you may just feel like you're down and you can't get up, I think a smile or simply a prayer or a hand on your shoulder can always help you out a little bit.
Yeah. I just remember seeing you go through the competition field in full mud and water and everything else, and you just smile on his face. Everybody's like, "Oh, we got to play in the mud and all this other stuff." And Nate's just over there, just radiating life.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I need more people like Nate in my life. So, yeah. I'm really sad it's taken a year almost for us to meet again and to see. But I just wish I could take a person like Nate, because of the influence of a guy like Rick, to pour into him, to see leadership, to see opportunity, to see a place for growth, and for him not just to hear it, but to take it and to apply it and lead out from it. Not to put you on a pedestal, but that's optimally the goal for Fellowship of Christian Athletes in Central Arkansas, is to raise up a lot more athletes like Nate. And there are people like that on every campus we go to. We just have to show up and be consistent and persistent and build those relationships.
You said something important there too. You said treat others better than you want to be treated. You just rewrote the golden rule right there. But that's so true, because didn't Jesus treat us better than we could ever treat anyone? Man, that is so good. Josh and I are sitting over here smirking at each other. That is wisdom beyond your years right there. I want to kind of dive into maybe some wisdom you can impart on other students that are going through similar stages of life that you are right now. I know for me, I'm 22. I just graduated college. I get the stage you're in right now where you are smiling, but there's also uncertainty in where you're headed right now too. We don't know what tomorrow has to offer, especially when you go from high school. We're scheduled hours 1 through 8 all the way through the day. Then we go to practice, then we go to church, and then we wash, rinse, repeat the next day. What kind of advice would you give a freshman coming into high school who has goals, has ambitions, but wants to be the best in what they're doing every single day? What kind of advice would you give them?
My advice I would give an incoming freshman is find your crowd, find a crowd that continue to push you to be of an elevation above the rest. When you think about a mountain peak, you think about the highest point, which the highest point in Little Rock, I believe, is Pinnacle Mountain. And to reach that peak, you'll have to put yourself around other mountains. And I think you should find some mountains, and when I say mountains, I mean a friend group that can push you and excel you to be the greatest version of yourself. And that's the best advice I give incoming freshmen. What I did was I found a crowd that could elevate me and push me, not only in life, but in faith, and my work ethic, and in my drive. And once I found that, I felt like the sky was the limit for me.
So for you to find that group, though, not everybody's like that.
Not everybody's like that.
Was there a struggle? Was it hard to find those people? I mean, how much time did you invest, or what? How did that look for you?
Countless hours of talking to people, conversating with people, talking to people on the phone, diving into people and finding out who they were. I will say this, even one of the guys that elevated me to be the person I am today, he doesn't even stay in Central Arkansas. He stays in El Dorado, 2 hours away, and that's crazy. But we met at a banquet, I believe. I think it was an FCA banquet, actually. I met him at an FCA banquet, and just now he's become one of my best friends. One of the guys that checks in on me quite a bit. Always asks me how my faith is going. And he not even just in my faith, he checks in on my life, see how my family's doing, everything. And I think when you find people like that, and can have people like that in your circle, I think that's huge. And I think that continues to push you to be the best version of yourself.
That's really good.
Well, I think that's the part there too, is it starts with you. If you want to see change, be the change a lot of times too, where not everything just falls into your lap and works out perfectly the way that you thought it may. You talked about that with your transition coming into FCA. It's we don't always see the whole puzzle pieces and know how to fit them together perfectly, but we do know that as we keep trying to figure out the answers or how all those puzzle pieces work together, that the Lord's going to work and he's going to move. Kind of want to transition into kind of a fun question here, a little bit of lighthearted, but I was thinking, I was like, man, what's a debate that's been going on for a long time that we can dive into here? And with you being a multi-sport athlete, I think it makes sense to bring this up here. But either of you can go ahead and post your take on this. What is the hardest sport to play, and why?
Hockey.
And why is that?
You have to do it on skates.
On thin metal strapped underneath your feet.
Yep.
Keep your balance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you ever played hockey before?
Absolutely.
And was it the most difficult thing you've ever done?
I didn't go far enough with it.
Yeah.
I switched in high school to track, but I played enough hockey to know how difficult it is and to really appreciate professional hockey, especially professional playoff hockey. This is a silly pun, but it's a cut above without a doubt. The endurance that you need, can't help it. The endurance that you need to do it, the pressure that you're under to do it well, to be successful, and it's one of the there's individuals that will stand out in hockey. I believe football's the greatest and best example of what team sport is. Hockey, you can be an individual and stand out. If you have a star goaltender who doesn't let it through, you can win a Stanley Cup with just an excellent goaltender. If you're on a basketball team, one or two guys out of the five and you can dominate. Baseball, you get a dominant pitcher every fourth day, you're gonna have a great chance to win. In football, everything depends on everyone. It's 11 people doing their job. It's the ultimate team sport. But hockey is the one that takes the most out of an individual, out of his body, out of his mind. So it's the hardest sport.
Rick, when's the last time you laced up a pair of skates?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been too long. It's been too long.
I
If you have to
disagree.
think about it, it's been too
I
long.
disagree that it's been too long. I don't ever need to put another set of skates on. However, I did it as a pops. I did it with one of my grandkids the last time I did it. I don't need to do it again.
Oh yeah, I think me and you need to show up and just
Not a chance.
just
Want you
together.
to know, not a chance.
Why?
No. Well, one thing, you're already a foot taller than me. You on
I have
skates.
further to fall than you do.
You will get hurt. That's true.
That's what I'm
not
saying.
interested.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
And see, I'm wise enough to know this is not a good idea.
I asked why, and
You
you said no.
have
No
had it.
never answers the question why.
Again, wisdom is the reason why.
I love our FCA team. We come from multiple perspectives, and we get on each other all the time. And
All right, Nate, tell us what the
Yeah, go
toughest
ahead.
sport is before Josh takes us down on the rabbit trail.
I would say track or CrossFit.
I knew you were about to say CrossFit. Go ahead and explain what you do with CrossFit. And
Let me start with track.
Okay.
What do you think I ran in track? I'm 210 pounds.
I didn't think you ran in track.
Yeah, I did. I ran a 4.56 before I tore my hamstring in the 40.
Wow.
What do you think I ran in track?
100 meter.
I ran the 800 and the 1 mile.
Oh,
I was a mile and 2 miles.
Love to death, and I think track is a very rough sport. But
2-lap sprint.
for anyone just listening to this
I'm out.
podcast, you don't see Nate right now. He's built pretty well, but you wouldn't just take him as like endurance runner
No.
necessarily. Respect.
that was something I had to get a little bit of grit for. But CrossFit, I've went through CrossFit. I love CrossFit to death, but good God, if you've never done CrossFit, you will be in for a ride of your life.
Have you ever done CrossFit?
No,
Have you, Rick?
No,
Man, what's wrong with you people?
wisdom again.
I enjoy.
I mean, burpees, 100 power cleans, maybe 200 squats, jumping over benches, doing
I
push-ups.
will say this: CrossFit is made for people under 6 foot.
I know some guys that are 6'2", 6'3", that are in there, and they look phenomenal.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
It's not made
Josh
for a
is in
6'10"
different
guy.
Yeah, different league than 6'1",
Okay,
6'2".
I did CrossFit for 2 years, and I realized I'm not in the prime of my life, and I don't need to train like I am. And I spent more time injured because I was trying to keep up with smaller people than me. So,
Understand? I think the average height in the CrossFit class, mine is like 5'10".
your burpee is a lot more compact than mine.
Oh man, my burpees only come after eating
your
Chipotle.
pull-ups, your arms, your arm range of motion, like everything about CrossFit was the opposite for me. And I mean, I learned range of motion. I learned all those things that I didn't necessarily learn in basketball. So it was a new challenge. I mean, put me on a rower, you're going down.
Whoa.
Well, challenge.
At the time, you were going
Gauntlet
down.
thrown.
Not anymore. I mean, it's all about
okay, gotcha.
it's all about
It's
power.
in context.
It's all
yeah.
about powerful, longer strokes. It's not about quick and short and everything else. I mean, it's about the longevity and going and resting and pushing through. Once I figured out how to do it, I'm like, all right, put me on a rower. Any competition, I'm your row guy.
So do you think you could beat Nate right now in a rowing competition?
No.
Okay.
Enough said.
Why would I need to? Wisdom over here.
Oh.
There you go. Love that. It's teachability on display right there.
That's what it is. I feel like CrossFit engages your whole body too.
It does.
It
There's
does.
not a single muscle group that gets to hide when you're in CrossFit. I feel like it's an entire body, mind, soul, spirit, fully engaged in what you're doing. Explain. Have you ever competed in CrossFit?
No, not ready for that.
So break down like a regular CrossFit.
Pull-ups. It's constant movements, and
Yeah.
I think that's what gets a lot of people. I mean, simply constant power cleans, hang cleans, pull-ups, squats, whatever it might be, jumping over benches, burpees, over and over again, and running to the sun. It seems like we run to the sun, quite frankly, quite a bit. 3-4 mile runs, or a 1 mile run in between a circuit. And that's what will get you, because you have to come back and do the same workout over again and pretty much be still ready to go get it.
It's all about teaching yourself that you're able to do more than you thought was possible.
Yep.
Just keep moving.
No wonder he was smiling at FCA camp.
Who cares? Yeah, exactly. FCA camp.
He'd already been through 10 times worse.
Yeah.
He's probably waking up in the morning working out before everything else ever happened at FCA camp too.
Yeah.
Just cranked out a couple of push-ups.
There we go. See? There it is.
Oh, man. That's good. That's good. Josh, you got a take on what the hardest sport is here?
I don't know. I think they're all equally hard in their own aspect and how you do stuff. Part of me wants to say swim.
Well, that would be difficult for you, yeah. Although, I guess you
meant that in the nicest way.
Yeah, I did mean that in the nicest way possible. Now that I think about it, after I let those words slip out of my mouth, you would be down the pool in like 2 strokes.
Yeah, it's a
You
lot
could
more than that,
probably-
but, I mean, just the lung capacity. A lot of people can't even swim. Period. So for an athlete to say, "Hey,
I'm so
go-
sorry. That was
go swim in the pool," they don't.
Zach's on a hot
They
seat.
can't. I mean, it's a special skill set. Put me on ice skates, I'm good. Put me in pads and have to defend and move on. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. Hardest sport to play? I don't know. You got an opinion, Zach?
I was going to say the hardest sport for an opponent against you to play would be basketball.
Yeah.
Dikembe Mutombo out here. No. Baseball has always been the sport that I look to in this debate of, I think, and this is a whole nother conversation, but I think baseball athletes can be the most versatile athletes out there. Because, let's see, it's a hot take. You can take it however you want to. But
Zach's take.
the ups and downs of, I think, professional baseball, the ups and downs of a season, success in baseball is hitting the ball 3 out of 10 times. And that's
which
like,
means failing. 7 out of 10.
yeah.
Success
which-
is a game of failure.
Yeah. In baseball, to get paid millions of dollars, you get to fail 7 out of 10 times. Man, that's like that tells you the difficulty of the sport.
Sure.
Guys are pitching. I see Paul Skeens is a guy I watch all the time. Paul Skeens throws like a wiffle ball out there. And if you don't know how a wiffle ball moves, it moves with no kind of rhythm or reason to why it moves like that. But trying to get up there day in and day out, they play every single game, every single day, 162 games in a season. The endurance, everything like that. I think baseball is up there for one of the hardest sports. I won't say it's the most difficult, but it's definitely.
I say after swim, the next hardest sport would be rugby.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like football without pads.
Rugby, then lacrosse.
Lacrosse is tough.
I don't know how to do it. Yeah.
I agree with rugby tough too. It's not hockey though.
It's not CrossFit.
I feel like those sports are never really in this debate, though, because a lot of your mainstream sports are just like
Try being on skates for 4 minutes.
Exactly.
Try being on skates for 2 minutes. Try being on skates for 1 minute. Taking a shift. 1 minute. Try it. Just try it. Not fun.
Like we're talking about just standing there?
No. Do you ever see any hockey players just stand there?
You just said be on skates for 1 minute.
A shift. You know,
For us Southerners, have no idea what
I
that
don't
shift
know.
is. Is that 9 to 5? Is that midnight shift?
Man.
What kind of shifts
all
are we
right,
talking about
look,
here?
it's important in the context of our conversation
There we
that
go.
you have some working knowledge of what professional hockey looks like. Even college hockey. If you take a shift, most shifts last less than a minute because of the endurance required to be a forward or a center or a defenseman or a goalie. The goalie is on there all day, the whole 20 minutes per period.
Yep.
He's got a little territory to cover, so he's not moving like everybody else, but he's always on alert because the game changes in an instant. And you, as a forward or a defenseman or a center, have to change with it in a minute. It's the transition in basketball. You know how quickly those turnovers happen and the transition goes in? Now imagine that on skates in a much bigger arena and trying to control what just happened.
I'm just glad that there's walls and plexiglass around a hockey rink because I can't imagine trying to stop without it. So,
Well, that's the other half of the sport is if you run someone at the wall, even accidentally, all of a sudden brother's over here dropping his gloves, and it's go time.
The whole brawl is breaking out.
Well, if you do it in an unfair way, most of the hits that happen, they happen in the context of the sport. It's not offensive to anyone playing the sport.
All right, Rick, you mentioned this earlier, playoff hockey. Who do you follow and cheer for?
Well, I'm a Chicago Blackhawks fan for life. I'm a fan of the Las Vegas Knights, and I'm a fan of the last two champions, the Florida Panthers.
Wow.
But I'm a Blackhawks fan ultimately. So
Connor
they won
Bedard.
every other year, 2010, 2009, 11, and 13.
And it's not every day you get two Illinois boys in the same room on the podcast in Central Arkansas. So
we're on two opposite sides of the spectrum too, because Central Illinois, it split right down. I'm a St. Louis Blues fan.
Doesn't make you a bad guy.
Yeah.
I won't hold that against you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a part of hockey.
They won respect.
When watching,
I'm out.
They did win one recently.
Yeah.
And they almost took down the Jets.
Almost is never a good thing to start your sentences with.
Yeah. Did you watch that game? It was a heartbreaker.
But, yeah.
It
wasn't a heartbreaker for the other side.
No,
it was a heartbreaker
wasn't.
for the Blues fans.
Yeah.
So how did you just say that? Almost is never a way to start your sentence.
Never a great way to start your sentence.
That's fun.
I pointed to the respect that the players do have for each other when they are fighting each other, because you're punching a guy in the face, but at some point they do stop though. And it's like, they're not malicious after that. They just it's like ruthless aggression for like 45 seconds. And then you go to the box.
A lot of hockey fights are purposeful.
Yeah.
They're really, oftentimes their purpose is secondary to the individual they're combating. It's really to set a tone for their team. That's why who's fighting matters. So there's some players, if they're fighting, that's a message that clearly sets the rest of their team up. Hey, if he's willing to take his mitts off, we better be willing to do whatever it takes to win this game. And it's often a fire up mode. And now there are some like, hey, we're just exacting some revenge. We're losing, and I need to get my frustration out.
Man, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
man. Well, what a great conversation. Thank you guys for being here, Rick and Nate. We had a blast today. Josh and I can speak with Josh, and Josh will say too. We had a blast today. An absolute great time. Just learning from you guys.
It's a lot of fun.
It's awesome to see the ministry that's going on our school campuses. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope to continue to see you followers in our future episodes, and continue to listen, because there's lots of good stuff here in Central Arkansas. So thank you for tuning in. This is Beyond the Huddle, the Central Arkansas FCA podcast, where faith meets competition. We will see you